Hi, Technicolor. I'm Kylie from the Knowledge Transfer Office of the Hong Kong Baptist University. I hope you're all ready after some really fun exercises this morning. Since tomorrow is your big day to go on the virtual stage, we have invited Dr. Alfred Tan, Head of Knowledge Transfer Office of HKBU, to share with us some tips, tricks, and techniques we could all use immediately for a perfect pitch. So before we start, here's a little background of Dr. Tan. Apart from being a university senior administrator, Dr. Tan is also an entrepreneur, an IP attorney, an engineer, a research scientist, and an inventor, all rolled in one. He started his career in academia before embarking to successfully lead his own technology startup. Some of you may have already heard of him before in the elevator pitch competition organized by Hong Kong Science Park in 2017. He pitched on behalf of a HKBU spin-off company and beat 99 other finalists from across the globe to be crowned champion and claimed an investment prize that was worth 140,000 US dollars. Before I pass the virtual stage to Dr. Tan, to enhance your experience in this webinar, I'd like to invite all of you to go to Slido, www.sli.do, and enter the code 41147. You may either open a new browser on your computer or scan the QR code here on the screen with your phone. We'll be doing some really fun interactive tasks with you on this platform. You can also find the link in the chat box below right now. During the webinar, if you have any question, please leave your questions in the Q&A box below. All right, so enough of me talking. Everybody, please welcome Dr. Tan.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope everybody is keeping warm in this morning. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you for the kind introduction. And for the next 50 minutes or less, I'd like to share with you some my experiences in pitching or presenting. Most importantly, how to share with your audience. Okay. So let me start my presentation and my sharing with you. My presentation this morning is entitled, just let me minimize that so that it doesn't get in the way. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay, good. Now, my presentation is entitled to pitch or to share, and that's a $1,000,000 question. Now, before I start, I will have a simple Slido exercise for all of us to warm up in this cold morning. I'd like to get your input on what presentation means to you. Okay, so for the next 1 minute, please go to the Slido. So you see the question here. Please fill in your answers, please. We have a minute to do this. We have 30 seconds. Ten seconds to go. And I'm seeing that all of you are very much in tune on what a presentation means. All right, let's close the Slido queue here. Let's take a quick moment, look at your own answers. And I think all of you, as I say, are very much on the queue. For you, is the communication, is the storytelling, sharing your ideas, sharing. Well, selling as well, but selling involves two party. There's also the buying, of course, when you sell, right? So I hope in my sharing this morning will help you to communicate and share your ideas more efficiently and more effectively with your audience. So on that note, I'll go back to my slide. So as I say, I'm going to share with you this morning, okay, how I was lucky to win the 2017 elevator pitch competition, and it is more than $1 million Hong Kong for the work of, I believe, was 4 minutes. It was 1 minute in the lift and 3 minutes on stage. Okay. Now, before I go on to share with you my tips and secrets, I want you to watch the presentation. You have not seen it. Let's do that. Industry for rubber, and we got tired of today. But today is not 1844. Today is 2017. I'm telling you the story of revolutionized the use of sapphire. I want to introduce you Cathay Photonics. We have won the World Invention Award in Geneva last year, and this is our invention. Our invention is that we're able to coat sapphire as a thin film onto any surfaces to make that surfaces as hard as sapphire. Sapphire is the second hardest thing on earth after diamond, but we are better than sapphire because our thin film retain the flexibility of the substrate underneath it. This thin film has been scratched by the watchmaker in Geneva. And even the strongest man with the Swiss knife can't create a scratch in it. Okay. But I want to tell you more. I want to tell you one of our killer applications because this can be applied to many surfaces, and we have 14 patents filed. 3 of them has been granted. The one granted is in Taiwan and in US. We have patents filed in PCT, in Korea, in Japan, and in European Union. This is one of our application, Sapphire AR. We have able to put the sapphire onto anti-reflective coating. By the way, we use current industrial machines. No new industrial machine is required. We do it in room temperature, so we can even coat on plastic. Why is this a killer application? Because look at this lens. It's rounded, it's protruding. This is used in 360 cameras. This is used in all the cameras in your Tesla. 8 of them in Teslas. Okay, these cameras cannot be scratched because on the Tesla it will prevent the automotive autonomous driving. It will be a safety issue. Okay, we can do this. We have pre-money, we have post-money, and we already have three contract working for client to develop proof of concept for their clients. And one of them is actually working for Garmin. Okay. Now, before I go into the next slide, and while the presentation is still fresh in our mind, I want you to go to the next 2 Slido question, and I want to get your feedback from what you have seen of my presentation. So the second Slido is in 2 words. Tell me what you think. What have I done wrong or not so well in that presentation? Anything that you observed there that you'd like to share, please. 1 minute. We have another 30 seconds. 10 seconds. All right, we come to an end. Let's look at your answers. And you're absolutely right. Actually, a lot of people have told me, even though I'm a reasonably okay speaker on the stage, I have only one energy level, which is really, really upbeat. Okay. I forgot my three P's. What are the three P's in presentation? The three P's are your pitch, your pause, okay? And what's the last one? Your pace. When we presenting, we have to give time for the audience to listen, to digest, and to follow us. Okay, and I didn't do that. I have to honestly agree with you. I didn't do that on that presentation. Now, anyway, even though I didn't do that, luckily I still won the competition. So what did I do reasonably okay? Let's hear from you. What do you think I've done right? Or at least, the result proved that I must have done something right. So 1 minute, please. What do you think? 30 seconds? 10 seconds? All right, that's the end of the minute. Well, yes, you're absolutely right again. Preparation is everything. Okay, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So I was prepared for this presentation. How do you know that? It's very obvious from a few simple things. Number one, it doesn't come as a coincidence that I can pull out a key from my right pocket, a product from my inner pocket. Everything's are there for a reason. Okay, even the pie card that I used on stage was prepared for a reason, which I will share later on. Okay, so preparation is very important. So it's a few points that you mentioned there. I don't know about the dress. I can't claim much about my sense of dressing, but the body language, having product is part of the preparation. The body language also shows the passion as well. So you're absolutely right. Okay, let's go into more details on some advice I want to share with you about preparation and how to share with your audience. Okay. Now, allow me to share my screen again, and I'll go to my next slide. All right. Okay, I'm sure you saw this scene in the video just now. All right. Now, using this photo as a prompt, I want to ask you two more Slido questions. And just like before, in every question, I will share with you why I do certain things, what is the reason behind that, and how those ideas can help you to be a better presenter and possibly win your own millions of dollars. Okay, let's go to Slido again, please. Okay, my fourth question. You just seen that presentation, you've seen the picture I've just shown you just now. I want you to describe visually what you have seen that I've done in the presentation. What did you see that I've done visually in the presentation? Okay. What strikes up to you? Thirty seconds to go. 10 seconds. All right, that's the end. Well, I believe you have really paid attention to the presentation, and thank you for that. I'm really pleased to see again, just from the presentation that you actually went through with us and the photo I showed you, you have really captured a lot of the visual things that I've done in that presentation. Let me start with a few things that you have actually mentioned here. Props. Now, unbeknown to you, let me give you some background on the whole elevator pitch competition. Okay, we are not allowed to use slides. Actually, a few days before the presentation, I did went up to the venue. I did have a look on the stage they prepared. I knew that number one, since we are not allowed to use slide, I knew how far away is my audience. Okay, now you can see that I have a prop, which you mentioned very well, the poster board that was prepared way before the competition without any certainty that I will get into the final 10. All right. But when I got into the final 10, I look at my other 9 fellow competitor. I'm the only one with a big poster board that people can see from that stage. Okay. And that's very important because human being, when you interact, is a multi-sensory experience. You don't just hear what I say, you also read and see what I do or what I show you. So the whole idea of the poster board is nothing new or nothing spectacular other than simply just like back in the days of primary school or kindergarten, I'm using a picture to tell a story. Okay, so I was prepared. I was prepared that I know the environment. I was prepared. I know the kind of audience distance I need to present. And moreover, on the poster board and the prop, let me tell you a few more things that I was prepared to do. And why did I do that? Okay. Number one, I'm sure you all remember in that picture, I showed the picture of a lens. It's by purpose. I put the lens as I choose the protruding lens, which is the one of the product we do, and make it huge, big, and protruding. Because I want to show to the audience that this is bulging, this is likely to get scratched. And you did see that I used some text, very key points, points that I know are crucial, absolutely important for the audience to remember and to know. But I didn't use a lot of words. I only used very short sentences to the point. Why do I do that? Simple. Because when human beings look at text, we will read. We can't help ourselves. So I put in there things that I want them to read and digest with a picture to exemplify it. That's number one sharing I want to share with you. Other than knowing your audience and being prepared, it's your duty to help your audience to understand what you're saying in their own mind, in their own words. because that's the whole idea of storytelling. Remember in the beginning, the Slido, you're telling me that, presentation to you is storytelling. Yes, to tell a story to anyone, you need to know what their background. They need to relate to your story. I'm sure you agree to that. Another point. Now, I did show in the video, and you did see, my poster board is two-sided. You see, I flip it around, and there were simple pictures of two Tesla. Why? Why? Again, it's a matter of your audience, a matter of preparation. Before I came on the competition, before I enrolled even in the competition, the list of judges, 14 of them, is already available online. I took it upon myself, go and search who they are, what's their education background, what area they are from, what is their interest in this. And I found out a few interesting facts. Number one, majority, if not all, of the judges are either from technical background or from finance background. Okay, so they have some idea of the technical background. People have some idea about the lens that I show them. Okay. Number two, all those judges are very esteemed people of great value and wealth. And I did find out that a number of them, close to half, I believe, own a Tesla. Now you see why am I getting here, right? When I use the two picture of a Tesla, I relate to something that they own. Then they can see the story I'm telling them is part to do with something that they every day they live, they use, a tool that they own, a car that they own. And when I use that again make another emotion link. One more thing, I didn't just tell them that Tesla have 8 cameras. I also tell them how important are the cameras for the safety of the car. Now guess what? Who's driving the car? Who's sitting in the car? It's them and their family. Get it? Now, it's important for them to have those cameras protected so that they themselves and their family can drive a safe vehicle. So there is a reason behind the picture, behind the prop that I prepared so that they can engage, they can relate, and more importantly, is they can own the story. Okay? At this juncture, I want to share with you, I have been doing presentation a long time in my career, and 99% of people that I know, including myself in my younger years, a presentation is just, somebody have said earlier, is selling. You want to tell people what you know, what you have, why is it good for them. That's fine. But that is not good. I always believe there's 2 more levels to a better presentation. And the next level is what I'm doing right now for you and with you. The next level, and more importantly and effectively, is that you share with your audience. You share an experience with them. You share a story with them so that they can understand your story. They can own your story. They can understand in their words, in their meaning, the context you try to sell them. Only then you can bring your audience along with you. Only then you can share with them the great story that you have behind either your project, your product, or your services. Now, I did say there are 2 levels. Some of you might ask, so what's the 3rd level? Well, the 3rd level is very tough, very hard. I've seen it working. I've tried. Sometimes it works for me as well. But it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of understanding of your audience. Do you want to know what's the 3rd level? The 3rd level is that you want to present to a point not only that your audience can understand you and share with you, is that your audience can complete a sentence before you say it. So they become evangelized. They become part of the story. They want to tell the story more than you do or as much as you do. How do you see those things happening? Those things happening, those situations are in times of greatness. Some of the great speakers that I know, for example, people like Steve Jobs, they can actually do that quite easily. Others, people like us, we can still do it, but we need to prepare. We need to train. We need to know the audience. More importantly, and this is a word that seldom people use with presentation, you need to care for your audience. What do I mean? I mean, when you say you want to care for your audience, meaning that number one, you need to respect them. They're here to listen to you. Their time is just as valuable as your time sitting on the stage. You need to make sure within that time that they pay their full attention to you, you got to deliver the value to them. It's not about you. It's not about your product. It's about them understanding what you're telling them, how is that going to add value to them. Okay? You need to respect their time. You need to respect their understanding. And this is why, as I said just now, I prepare all this prop. I prepare the poster board because I want to tell them a story that they can easily digest and not get lost in what I'm saying. I want to tell them a story that is dear to their heart, but in the same time relate to the product I'm trying to share with them. Okay? So one more Slido question. Last question, I ask you what do you see that I've done on stage. Now I want to ask you, what did you hear? What did you hear I say in the presentation that actually still you can remember now? Okay, 1 minute, please. I'd like to hear from you. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. Okay, we'll come to an end now. Well, you're not wrong. All right, I did mention Tesla a lot. I talk about our product, the Sapphire. All right, I did mention how Sapphire is the second hardest thing on earth after diamond. Okay, now I believe just now there was a little technical glitch when I started the video. I believe I was muted my sound, but don't worry. If you have a time to look back up this presentation, which is on YouTube, you will also hear in the beginning, I actually told them if we are in the year vulcanization of rubber was announced, and I was Mr. Goodyear, then I'm going to tell them this is going to be the changing the whole industry of rubber and how is that used to make tires. Okay. But because we are not then, on that day, at that time, on that stage, I'm going to tell them something as particular as well. Is how we're going to use sapphire as a coating for anything on earth to make it as hard as sapphire, which is second hard after diamond. Why do I say that in the beginning? There's a few things that you need to know. Number one, as I say, respect your audience. Now, your audience are there to pay their 100%, 200% of their attention to you. But there's a caveat. The caveat is that you have the first 3 seconds of their absolute attention. 3 seconds is known, it's documented in science. After the 3 seconds, whether they're starting to drift off or they're still very much interested to listen to you, is up to you. Okay? So my first thing that I started on the stage, I give them an equivalent. Why this is such a spectacular story that you need to listen. I want to share with you. Let me give you one example. What is the commonest phrase that you hear when people telling stories? I'm sure some of you will say, a long, long time ago, right? How many of us have heard that? A long, long time ago, da 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 da. Why is that important? Because a long, long time ago bring back a lot of intrigue, bring back a lot of curiosity. It sets a frame for the audience to say, oh, he or she going to tell me something in the past that I might not know. So it's a hook. It's something to capture the attention of your audience. And that's very important. Okay. Of course, all the elements that you identify in this Slido answers here is true. I need to tell them within that 3 minutes on stage, elements that is definitely of interest to them. I can tell you, I can stand on that stage and talk for 10 minutes or half an hour. There's a lot more things on the technology that I want to tell them that I know because I know the technology so well. But that is not important. It's never important what you want to say, but it's most important what you want your audience to hear, understand, and digest. And I know I'm talking to 14 judges. I know they are also potential investors because part of the competition is that 14 of them will invest money in the company. So I told them things that as an investor will need to know or want to know. For example, the superiority of a technology. For example, we already have contract from three customers. For example, okay, how our technology can be the solution to saving life in Tesla, in automotive industry, or in self-driving cars. So all those are things that to them as an investor is important, because if you just tell them this coating is good, it protect your product from scratch, they can say, well, maybe it's good to have, maybe not good to have. Right? I don't mind my camera gets scratched. I can buy a new one. That's fine. But when you tell them this is going to protect the camera on those electric cars, they're going to be self-driving, and without this protection, there's a higher chance of accident. Then it's a different case. Then they know, hey, this technology could capture a very crucial market. Then this is a good potential investment. Then they would like to invest in you. Okay? So I hope in this brief sharing, I've shared with you some insight of mine, how I prepared for a presentation, how I get to know my audience and do things like preparing a poster board, preparing the right story, preparing the kind of font, the kind of information, telling them information they need to know. Okay, but all those information are authentic and real and relate to my technology, so that I can help them to understand what I want to share with them. Okay, now on that note, I want to go to my next slide. Remember, and this is my own quotation. Okay, it's never what you want to say. It's never what you want to say. And a lot of time as human being, we have that we are compelled to do that. Not just pitching, not just pitching on stage. Even we're talking with friends, okay, talking with another person. We want to speak our mind. But remember, as you have identified clearly in the beginning of this sharing, pitching is also a communication. Communication is two-way. It's not one way. It's never what you want to say, but it's always what you want your audience to understand and remember. And I can tell you that on that stage, on that night, on 2017, they remembered me. They remember our product, our company, and because I was prepared. As simple as that. But more importantly, unbeknown to them, I actually prepared and helped them to understand. Just a little side story. After that presentation and the investor in us, One of them came up to me. He says, I didn't know my Tesla have 8 cameras. Thank you for telling me. Okay. So on that note, and as I promised, actually it's less than 15 minutes. I told you I'm going to take 15 minutes to tell you, to share with you. That's my presentation to share with you. And I thank you for your time and your attention. Any questions, please?
All right. So, thank you very much, Dr. Tan. We do have a couple of questions for you from the crowd and our Techaphone participants. If you have any questions right now, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box below or the question and answer box below. All right. So let me see. The first question to you is, do you think it's a good idea to memorize my talk?
Very, very good question. Okay. The simple answer is this: know your talk, not memorize your talk. There's a difference. When you try to memorize something, you're compelled try to repeat everything. Now, two things. Number one, when you put yourself in that situation, you become very robotics. And look, if anything will happen, it will happen on stage. Okay, you don't control the pace, the pitch. Just like I didn't control my pace, my pitch, my pause on stage. So what you need to do is memorize the important things about your presentation, and then go up there and impress them. Go with the flow, because you never know what the audience is going to ask you. You need to be, just like Bruce Lee said, like water. Okay, not memorize, but know your stuff. That's important.
All right, so make sure you know your stuff. And other questions to you: how to effectively communicate the value of my product if I do not have a real product in my hand, but only a virtual prototype?
Well, very good question. Simple. Think of a use scenario. A product or a service must have a use. Talk about the use scenario. Help your, again, as I say, help your audience to relate, understand. Okay, so you can use examples, all right? And using the example, tell the story, and then where in that story your product have that role and that benefit and that value.
All right, so let me see. I do have some private messages from the crowd. Okay, the next question.
Sure.
What should I do if I forget what to say next? You know, it happens to all of us. We are all, when we get nervous, we stutter, and then, oh my God, all of a sudden, everything in my head is just gone. What should I do?
Well, actually, make use of it. Make use of it, because, as I said, a very, very good presentation have the pitch, the pause, and the pace. So you say, oh, suddenly I got a blank, right? What do I do? Well, there could be a pause, you know? So make use of the situation, recover, okay? Now, if you are somebody who get nervous easily, another little tip that you can do is that, you know, put a keyword, put a go-to safe word, write it on your palm or something, that worst come to worst, you forgot everything, that word prompts you to say a story, tell something about your product. There is like a safe space that you can go and, you know, pull yourself out from that blank.
All right. So, you know, I do agree with you, Dr. Tan, there. You know, when you are all blank, it's good for you to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
You know, just stop there and, you know, remember you are here and what you're doing. Okay. So, let me see what else we have here. If we have no idea on who the judges are like tomorrow's speech, any advice for us how to prepare tomorrow's speech?
Yes. Number one, don't be punctual, be early, be super early. Go there, observe, ask people, be courteous. You never know, you might catch a judge sitting there having a coffee. Strike a discussion, observe them, talk to them, ask questions, get their card. Hey, you learn on them on the spot. You know, when I say observe them, look at the dress. What do they carry? Okay? So things like that give you clues, and give you pointers to actually try to relate the story you want to tell to your audience. Okay, that's part of preparation. I know all of my master, the master that I've learned a lot from on pitching, he told me that he had make it a point to go to an event 2 hours earlier. Okay.
Okay, so in this case, I hope you're not the first team going on the virtual stage tomorrow. Okay, another question from the crowd. Is there any differences between Zoom pitching and live presentation?
Yes, actually, I personally, for me, pitching to a camera is a lot harder because in a live presentation, you get the instant feedback from your audience, from the facial expression, from the body language. Okay, even while you're talking, just like in my presentation just now, I can see from the stage on the floor that people are chatting among themselves. Okay, so I can see which point I mentioned actually raise interest, and I can maybe I can change and make more emphasis on that, so I can improvise on the spot. With talking on Zoom, the difficulty you don't get all this live feedback, so you have to be animated. You have to engage your camera, and that can be done. Actually, a lot of people that do that very well are in the showbiz business.
You're right. We do have some more questions on the line. The next question is, how do you know if you're pitching or sharing in a presentation?
Well, just as we have done just now. When you're pitching, you just go up there and tell them what you want to say. When you're sharing, you are sharing with them something that they can relate to. When they can relate to something, then they share an experience with you. That's the difference. And this is the point when I say the difference between a pitch and a share.
Okay, so another question for you. Do we have to add some actual number showing how much money can be earned in the pitch?
I'm sorry, if you mean how much money you can earn in the pitch as in your business, um, it's up to the situation. The reason is that it depends on who you're pitching to and what is the time limit that you have. Let me give you one example. If you're doing a short pitch, like elevator pitch, which I done in that competition, before I entered the final 10, I only have 1 minute. So my task in that 1 minute is not to tell them how much money I can help them make and tell them all this data, because it's impossible. My task is very simple. My task is to get to the second date. Okay, meaning that my task is to interest them, intrigue them enough that they want to listen more from me, rather than telling them everything right there and then. Okay, so I hope that helps you.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. And another question for you. How to effectively present data evidence which supports my idea in the pitch?
Okay, I will tell you this. With data evidence, two things. Number one, give the best visual you can think of. When I say best visual, means not numbers, not an Excel file. Usually, the best visuals are graphs. Graph that shows an uptrend line, a growth. Those are the best visuals. But data and visuals alone is useless, because I can tell you, all your investor will put a discount on what you tell them. Okay, and the other thing is this: you need to be credible. Where's the source come from? You need to tell them, look, simple, this chart based on credible research. You got to cite the source. That's it. Because it's expected. They know if you want to pitch to them to get their money, you tell them all the upside. Okay, you need to help them to at least have some surety that you have done your homework and the data is solid.
Okay, and other question for you, since tomorrow is the big day, so everybody's pretty nervous. How not to be nervous or worried when the judges show no interest to your pitch?
Well, first and foremost, I will break that into two parts. Okay, everybody will be nervous. I'm super nervous on the stage. I'm nervous now even. Okay, for how to actually calm the butterflies, or like my master say, get the butterfly to fly in formation, is to actually breathe. Take a deep breath, okay, and just share with them at your own pace. Now, on the second part of your question, if you think they're not interested, you actually can stop and ask them, is there something that maybe I can explain further? It seems that, you know, I see from your expression that you are not, understand, or you have some query about what I just said just now. Can I explain more to you? That can happen as well, that a lot of people never realize that a presentation, you can just have a conversation. Is there anything I can explain further at that point? And a lot of time, that kind of care and interest actually brings you a lot of value because you care for their understanding.
I agree with you, Dr. Tan. From my point of view, I think, even the judges are not showing any interest to you, but at least you have to show your passion.
Yes.
And positive energy is very influential. So make sure you go out there and stay positive. All right. And other questions for you. Do you have any advice on 5 minutes Q&A section?
I'm not quite sure what do you mean by that.
I think especially when time is so short, and what should our participants do if they don't know how to answer questions from the judges?
Oh, okay. But look, whether is you are having a problem answering a question on the spot, or because time is short. I didn't do this in my presentation that I shared with you just now, which is again, my bad. Always end your last slide with a contact email. Okay, because there's always time, if they're interested to know, to bring that Q&A offline. Okay, you must make yourself available for them to contact you. Okay, so I didn't do that here because I want to spend more time sharing with you, and I know through the secretariat you can find me. Okay.
All right, so one more question for you.
Sure.
How many slides should I use in a presentation, in a pitch?
Well, there's all. I remember a great speaker, Guy Kawasaki, have a rule of 10, 20, 30. Okay. What 10, 20, 30 means? 10 slides. Okay. No more than 20 minutes and 30 times font. Okay. I would say, look, 10 to 13 slide will be maximum. That will be too much. But again, it all comes back to this. It's not the number of slides that's important. It's the content and the story. Okay. Of course, if your time is short, that like this now, how many slides did I use? Anybody? I only use five? Okay. So it's not a matter of the slide. It's that how much value you can bring and how do you use the slide to share the story. All right.
Okay. One more question from you here on, let me see. I believe actually Dr. Tan has mentioned it before, but can you remind us, how can we grab audience attention?
Okay. There are some little tricks there. Okay. Number one, remember, first 3 seconds is crucial. First 3 seconds is crucial. Okay. So that's point number one. Point number two is that in that first 3 seconds, you need to actually do something that raise the awareness of your audience to the rest of the time, the presentation you want to tell them. Like in my case, I told them a story how relate to the vulcanization of rubber. Okay, that is one example. I've seen example where the first 3 seconds shows a photo that invoke emotion. Okay, what's a photo evoke emotion? Let me give you one example. I think most of you might remember or might not, if you have not looked it up. Before the pandemic, before all this social situation we have, there was a problem with basically refugees going to Europe. Now there was one photo of a poor child that have drowned, and his body wash on the shore. That photo, put it up there, invoke a lot of emotion. Okay. Now, of course, remember one important thing: don't do anything that's just for gimmick. Okay, don't do anything for gimmick. If I'm going to use that photo, I will use it in a presentation. If I have a safety device for water for children, okay, I want to use it that relate to my product. If it does not relate, don't use it, because there is actually a taboo. You will actually make your audience feel quite angry with you because you're just using a gimmick. All right, but my point is that use something that invoke a strong sense of getting their full attention.
Okay, so since the pitch tomorrow includes 5 minutes pitch time and 5 minutes Q&A time, one of our audience asked, should I allocate more time on explaining the issue my solution is going to address, or focus more on the technical know-how or feature of my solution?
Well, again, the answer to that is up to you. Why? Two important things. Number one, what is the judges are going to be judging on? Okay. If they're going to be investors, think about what does an investor care about. If this is a competition and you're making social impact, then you got to convince your panel of judges how this is going to make the impact. Okay, so it all comes back to that. And another element is the two things, right? The second element is this: what is some of the shining stars of your product or service? And you want to spend more time on that. Okay, so that will be, there is no rigid formula. And as I said before, be water. There's no rigid formula that you do from A to B to C and you nail it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, so that was our last question. Before we go,
okay,
Dr.
Can I say something?
Sure, yeah.
All right, thank you. This is a surprise. I'm going to give you one more last tip about respecting your audience.
I was going to ask you that.
Sorry. One last tip. I know that we are running out for time. Remember, in the beginning of this talk, I told you I'm going to use 50 minutes to share with you. Why do I do that? Why? Because I respect you. Remember, your audience time is as valuable, if not more, than your time. If you start a talk, you tell them, I'm going to spend X amount of time of your attention. I'm going to tell you this. And then you keep within that time, then they give you good credit. You are a credible person, you respect their time. What if you overrun the time? You stop at that time, you ask permission. Can I tell you more? Be courteous. Be nice to one another. Please care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tan. So guys, make sure you enjoy the virtual stage tomorrow, no matter what. Even if you have a lot of butterflies in your stomach, you have prepared for tomorrow. Okay, so here comes to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much, Dr. Tan, for your sharing. Finally, before you go, I wish you and your team the best of luck tomorrow. You all have put in the hours and put in the effort, so just go out there and give it your best shot. All right, goodbye, and we'll see you tomorrow.